So I'm looking over the jobs report, and on the surface, it does look amazing. Almost double the amount of jobs that were expected to be added were added. But when you dive a little bit deeper and you look a little bit closer, there's something that's a bit concerning that we need to talk about. And just so you know where to look on the jobs report, it's on table 9A. That is what I want to talk about. I also want to talk about the jobs report and the effect on interest rates in the fight against inflation, because it can actually be a negative symbol for that as well. So let's discuss this stuff. As always, my name is Derek and I got my degree in finance, so you don't have to. Let's talk about the most recent jobs report. Now let's go right into the main thing that I want to talk about right off the bat, and that is on table 9A. If we look at table 9A and we scroll down a little bit, you're going to get to a section that says full-time or part-time status. And that is kind of where I want to focus, because there's a couple of things here that are concerning in regards to this amazing job report. So on the surface, job report looks great. But when you look into the actual data and you look at full-time workers, and these numbers, remember, are in thousands. So last month, August, the number is 134,189. And then now, most recently, it is 134,167. So lower by about 22, which are in thousands, so 22,000. That's full-time workers, okay? So that number went down. But then you look at part-time workers. So last month it was 27,185, and now it is 27,336. So that is an increase of, just doing the rough math here in my head, about 160,000. Okay, so about 150,000 ish. So that number went up. So overall, on the large scale, when you just look at the jobs report, it looks excellent. But when you actually dive into, especially this section here, full-time work actually went down and part-time work went up. And when we talk about jobs and when we talk about wages and when we talk about the economy, a lot of times we look at the jobs report as a signal to whether the economy is strong or not, right? More people have more jobs. That means the economy should be stronger. But the quality of the job also really, really matters. So if we are losing high quality jobs and adding low quality jobs, that does not necessarily signal strong signals for the economy. So while the overarching number is positive, and don't get me wrong, the more jobs that we add, the better, we have to look at the quality of those jobs. Where are those jobs coming from, right? And more importantly, is it full-time or part-time work? Because there is a huge difference in benefits as well as pay when it comes to full-time and part-time work. And when you look at the numbers, again, I'm going to give you the numbers. Full-time workers, last month, 134,189. This month, 134,167. That is a decrease. Part-time workers, 27,185, and then now it is 27,336. That is an increase. So that is something to be aware of. And when you see all these big headlines that talk about the jobs report, just remember, where these jobs are distributed actually really matters, because everyone could be employed. The entire country could be employed. But if we're all being paid $1 a month, the unemployment rate is going to be zero. But does that benefit anybody? No, it does not. So that's very, very important. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, the other main thing I want to talk about, and I don't want to make this video too long, I just want to update you as best as I can. The other thing that I want to talk about in regards to this is the effect of this report on inflation and on interest rates. Because the Federal Reserve is going to look at this report when it comes to its next meeting. Okay, it has 2 more meetings for this year. The Federal Reserve is going to look at this report in making its judgment call on what to do. Usually, a positive jobs report is good for everybody. The problem is, in this scenario, I don't want to say we, but the Federal Reserve does not want to see a strengthening economy. It wants to see not a weakening economy, but it wants to see an economy that is leaning on the brakes. I've said this before in previous videos. It wants the economy to lean on the brakes because it means that its high interest rate policies are working and that inflation should come down. When you have an economy that is resilient or that adds jobs even in the face of high interest rates, it signals two things to the Federal Reserve. One, it signals that inflation might stick around for longer, because when you have more jobs, more employed people, that means more money to go around and more money to buy things, which fuels inflation. But the other thing that's very important to note is that this is going to signal to the Fed that the economy can still grow and can still be resilient in the face of high interest rates, which gives it a reason to keep interest rates higher for longer. Because if you have an economy that is resilient, one, that might by itself continue to fuel inflation. But two, it also signals that, hey, inflation is still double the Fed's target rate. So it signals to the Fed, hey, we have the ability to leave rates higher for longer to make sure that inflation comes down. Because remember, the Federal Reserve cares primarily about inflation control. The economy is secondary. A lot of times it'll treat the economy as collateral. But if the economy is showing strong signals, right, it's almost like if the collateral damage is a house, right, but that house is not made out of wood, it's made out of metal, right, for lack of a better term, that allows the Federal Reserve to firebomb inflation with higher interest rates for longer, because it knows that the economy is insulated and it is well protected. So this is most likely going to signal to the Fed to keep interest rates higher for longer. There is a good chance that they raise interest rates by the end of the year. And if not by the end of the year, definitely in the new year. We also have to understand that the Federal Reserve, a lot of people are expecting interest rates to come down early 2024. That is not going to happen. The Federal Reserve has made it very, very clear that it is going to keep interest rates higher for longer. So this only adds to that narrative. So I just wanted to update you on that, on both of those things. On one, the effects on interest rates and inflation, but two, more importantly, is that the overarching headline that everyone is talking about is that jobs did go up, which they did. But we as Americans need to take a deeper look and see where those jobs are being added. Basically, in other words, the quality of those jobs matter, because unemployment, we want to keep unemployment low, but the quality of those jobs matter. And when you actually look at the data, there are some signs that perhaps the quality is not as high as we would like. Not only that, when you look at wage data, so wage growth hardly moved for this most recent report, okay? Wage growth hardly moved, and it's about 4.1, 4.2% for the year. That's not great. Especially, it would be great in other times, but it's not great when inflation for the last year and a half has been double that. Okay, and inflation is barely coming down to that. So in essence, when you take into account inflation, you have stagnant wage growth in a sense. So yeah, I hope this was informative. As always, my name is Derek, and I got my degree in finance, so you don't have to. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It does help the channel tremendously. This is a relatively new YouTube channel, and it is something that I'm very passionate about. I've loved finance my entire life, and I've been pursuing it for the better part of a decade, and I love being able to share it with you from my degree and also from my experience. So if you took something from this, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to turn on the bell notification so you don't miss the next video. Usually videos come out on Tuesdays, but sometimes when there's something very important that we need to talk about, like this, I might do a video Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or in this instance, Saturday or Sunday. So hope you're having a great weekend. I hope this was informative, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.